Okay.
We have all members here. You tell me.
We're good.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am calling the Glens Falls Industrial Development Agency Board meeting to order for September 12th, 2024. We have all board members here, and we're also joined by our staff and key advisors and consultants, and I think we have one guest as well. So I am going to start by just turning this right over to Jeff Flagg, our CEO, to give his report.
Actually, I don't have any CEO report, but I do have some project reports. I don't know if you want to wait until we get to the project.
Yeah, let's wait and do, yep, so we're good on that?
Yeah.
All right, very good. So we will hold off. So then our regular administrative reports are here today in front of us, and all the members have copies, and they've been posted, I believe, on our website. And so we have our regular meeting minutes from July 11th, 2024. Does anyone have any comments or changes that they would like made? If none, those minutes, I think, are ready to be approved. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. Thank you. So we have two financial reports, one for month ending July 31, 2024, and one for month ending August 31, 2024. And then after we do that, we'll do Schedule A. So let me turn this over to Mark Toomey. And Mark, do you want to report on these financial reports?
Yeah, and all we had was activity in July was the Lutz audit for $3,800, CEO wage for the second quarter, $1,562, one legal bill for $272, and 40% of my June hours, $196. That's it.
And are we all paid up on our audit reports now, Mark? Everything's done? Okay, for 2023 audit. Okay. Actually, it was 2022.
Harris
but
and audit are all set.
2023 audit. Yes, okay, we're all set on that.
Mhm.
Anything on the August at all?
Nope.
Okay.
All
Any-
clean.
Any questions on any of these? They're pretty straightforward. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve both at the same time, unless you guys have questions or concerns. There being none, is there a motion to approve the financial reports for July 31 and August 31?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is passed. So we have the Schedule A payment of bills. There's 4 bills this month. I did have one question. Why are we just now getting a bill from the Post-Star for a public hearing that was held several months ago? I don't know if you know that yet, Mark, but
I don't know, I think the bill looked like it was marked for Suzanne, so I don't know if it floated around for a bit.
I
before
got
we
you.
got it, you know.
Well, and sometimes what happens too with those, I know with the block grant, sometimes what happens with those is that they don't get sent to us until 4 to 6 weeks after they've been published.
Okay.
We didn't have a July meeting, we didn't have an August meeting,
Yeah,
so,
there's a
you
delay.
know, there is some delay in getting it into process in order to get paid.
okay, very good. All right. So I've got no issue with that, and it's only $82, but any questions for Mark or for me on the bills or for Jeff? There being none, is there a motion to approve the payment of bills for a total of $1,232.84?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the motion is passed, and if you need me to sign those bills, we'll sign those bills today. Any other administrative reports, Jeff? I don't think of any. So let's do project reports, and we'll start with Market Square.
Yeah, well, as you know, we'll be talking a little bit more about this in the LDC meeting, but from the perspective of the IDA, right, the pilot's in place, so there's nothing really to be done with respect to the IDA's perspective until that project is underway. I should mention that they're actually the developers over in Sandy's, the building they already own, currently, and so they're doing some clearing of demo and abatement work right now. You might have seen the fencing around there, so that's a good sign. The markets that are adjacent to that, just as I'm sort of following down the line, that's been underway, as you know, for close to a year. A lot of the work that's been going on there has been infrastructure work. I mean, people keep asking me, why isn't the building going up? Why isn't the building going up? The building construction itself, the materials just arrived earlier this week for, I think they call them the glue lam materials to sort of build the structure of the frame. So we're still on schedule, although people look at it, they say, I can't believe you're still on schedule, but we are still on schedule to have that completed by the end, certainly by the end of the year. We were actually having discussions about the end of November. And I've got, strangely enough, there's people who are inquiring about the possibility of using that even. I've not been able to promise those things at this point, but suffice it to say, it's moving along. So I think Market Center is moving apace. Unrelated really to the IDA, but the Pocket Park really has been the driving time behind this, as you may or may not recall from earlier conversations. The real deadline has been for the Pocket Park, or the old Juice and Jar lot. So a lot of the attention has been put on that space. That grant is sort of tied in the DRI to the streetscaping, which is finished. They're doing the few punch-out items. I'm sure they've been down, I hope at least, we've been down Elm Street at some point and seen all the wonderful work that was done with the streetscaping down from Park all the way down to South Street. There's one little gap in that. If you go down, further down Elm, you'll see a little bit past some of the work was done past where the developer will be working. We sort of had them tabled all that work, obviously, until that project was completed.
Jeff, I don't know that you mentioned that the reason that the Pocket Park is so important is because of the grant being, they want to finish that grant up. So it kind of became like, we've got to finish this piece so we can meet the requirements of the grant. They due to COVID and everything else, they've been extending it, and they'd rather not. Right. So that's why.
Yeah, and one of the juggling acts that we're doing there is, of course, is that we're building. This is a green space, right? A little park. There's some porous pavements. There's going to be some greenery there. There's a trellis that's actually going to be going against the building adjacent to it, which is going to be difficult to do because you're going to have guys hopefully very soon working on those buildings. So either we got to make sure that there's space in between there, or I think what's going to probably happen is we're trying to determine, can we buy this stuff and say we have it but we're not putting it up quite yet, or do we put it up and then have them say just take down the structure? It could just be unbolted. It's not like it's a huge thing, but obviously these are just the kind of things that scheduling forces you to.
It is kind of interesting what they're doing on that spot. I did walk by and I didn't fully understand.
Those are leaves, pavers. Those are porous paver leaves that they're putting in, inlaid pavers.
Okay.
And then they're going to have benches and planters, big planters with trellises along the wall and around the thing in the back. And they've got some bollards that'll sort of separate the Market Center from this space. Okay. So the idea behind this was to make it a public space, but obviously it's one thing that will also be used by facilities adjacent to it, whether we're talking about the restaurant that goes in Hot Shots, we're talking about the incubator space that will be leasing. So
there will not be tables, it's benches.
No, there'll be benches sort of built in.
Right.
But the tables could be brought in.
But we're not putting in
Correct.
tables. Gotcha.
There are these leaf-shaped things that are in the ground. If you walk by, you'll see them.
Yeah, and remember, a lot of that's, well, one is for the environment, but the other is that we didn't know it until we started digging, that there's a large bank of utilities that runs down just a foot or two underneath the ground all the way down south.
Yes.
Well, that stops us from being able to run and connect into our storm line. So all the runoff in that Pocket Park and in the Market Center has to be contained within its own groundwater, which is great for the environment, but it threw many hiccups in when we discovered that we couldn't run the water from the rainwater into our stormwater. Because water only flows one direction.
Right. Yes, and the state's very pleased with what we had to do, but there was cost and time involved. I mean, it is what it is.
So I did go by and I saw the fencing for Sandy's, and I'm just wondering, have we communicated to the farmer's market? I know they probably
Yes.
have another month or two left.
Yes, we did.
It does seem like they've lost a little, not a
A
lot,
little bit
but a
on the
little
edge
bit.
there, but yeah, the parking is the real issue they're gonna have, because they
It's-
park a lot of their
You
vehicles.
can't park, okay. So
We've been clear with them
Okay.
throughout the whole time, and they now know, that's in
That's it.
Jeff's communications with them also. It's just about the parking, but they're gonna lose it for the end of this year, and they've known that for a long time. We've known that we just didn't know when this was all gonna happen. Thank goodness it's happening now.
Yep,
So,
okay,
your questions about what's going on there with respect to the IDA anyway?
okay.
Tech Meadows, as you know, we've signed an agreement with them, that the LDC has signed an agreement with them to sell the property. The station we're at now is that there's going to be a meeting, a special committee meeting, I believe, for the LDC. Again, another attendant project, but from our purposes, we have spoken to them about the possibility of needing some tax support help from the IDA. Very initial conversations. Obviously, we have to shake out and see how the budget works before they get to the point where they may or may not need that help. But I've sort of indicated that they do. So that's something that we're sort of looking at the moment.
And I know this is more of an LDC issue, but several of the members are gonna have to be on the committee that's gonna approve the design of that building along
Correct.
with Queensberry. Do we have that design yet?
We do.
We do.
We got it yesterday.
Yeah,
It went out in an email
That was
yesterday.
in the
Yeah,
email?
yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I
I
was
didn't
like-
look at that, okay.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah, it was kind of great.
Otherwise, I would have to say I do.
And so the plan for that is to schedule it for the last week of September, the review meeting, just based on everybody's schedules. That seems to be the first real opportunity where we can get everybody together. So we'll do it likely in City Hall, although I haven't asked the mayor yet.
Because we also looked at who met the last time when the plumbers and fitters union, and it just happened to be you two folks and the mayor.
Yep.
So we assumed that that's the way we'd keep it, so for simplicity's sake. And then I went to the Queensberry Town Board last month. They were kind enough, because their board, they had a Queensberry, is it an LDC or an EDC? They had a Queensberry EDC, which is no longer in existence. They passed a resolution to allow Supervisor Strow and one member of their Queensberry Town Board to serve in that capacity, and they will be make up the other
Right,
half.
so
of the
technically
committee.
what they did is change the annexation agreement. That was
Yes.
done in 1999.
Right, from
and
3 to
tweaked
5.
that so
So
that
they
it
got
was
another
a
seat.
5-member committee that does this review.
I recognize that.
Yeah.
So, could we have someone from the city, planning department
Mhm.
look at that plan and advise, at least
Absolutely,
the
yeah.
three
sure.
of
Yep.
us before we go into that meeting at
Yep.
the end of September?
Yep, Jeremy's back next week.
Okay.
So he is the-
Ask him to take a
Yes,
look at that?
yes.
That's great.
That,
All right.
that was my plan, yes. to
Oh,
have
was,
him
okay.
just take a quick look and make sure that it meets what we expect it needs to meet based on the last,
The
Etane.
criteria that's in the finding statement when seeker was adopted. It's like a component of the seeker determination, your
Yep.
design review.
Okay.
Thank you.
But, yeah, and this is as design review only.
That's right.
That's the,
Yeah.
right.
That's correct.
So
It's not
this is
approval
where,
of anything.
this is where your expertise in gardening and planting comes into
Because
play.
it's also site design, so yes.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and what they did already at 773 for site was very nice, so I think we want something that complements that or
At least doesn't fight with it.
doesn't fight it. Very good.
Yep,
All right.
great. Sorry, little LDC detour there.
Yeah, sorry.
And the last thing I have listed here, but actually is part of sort of a larger picture. I was at the planning board meeting on last Tuesday. I don't know if anybody else was here. It was really hard to know. Usually you can look around and see who's in the room, but there was a lot of people there. I won't go into the details of why that was, but one of the things I found was interesting was that there were 4 potential housing projects that were on the the planning board meeting. Everyone's familiar, of course, I think, with Chris Patton's project. But, in addition to that, Ryan Connor, of course, who spoke to us, I believe, the last meeting
On Union
about the
Square.
project he's working on
Yeah.
in Union Square, right? He's looking at rehabbing the back part of that building, the Pine Street side,
Yeah, the wing.
on the upper two, to build about 20 apartments in there. We're still working on that. He's interesting, and he's open to a lot of different financing options and investment options and things. This is a fairly big lift for them. They've owned a lot of sort of smaller buildings that they've done sort of piecemeal over the years. As he's bought a building, he's rehabbed this unit and then this unit and then this unit. If you're looking at something large like this, that's not a particularly practical way to do it if you're trying to get any assistance. You almost got to. So we're working with him. Jim Siplon over here, who's in the corner, has been working with them as well to try and sort of find the right package that will help them get a project that works for them. I suspect that IDA support will be a request in that mix. That's also the case with the folks down on Foothills Builders, who's working down on Warren Street. We've run into, and I guess it's not shocking, if we want to point to the need for brownfield remediation assistance, they're a poster child. This project is a poster child for it. I don't think there's enormous problems in there, but as we're digging up, and we've done a phase 1, there's done a phase 2. We've been able to help them with support from the EPA grant we have, the city that is. But there's now some issues that the banks are asking about that we're trying to sort of figure out ways around. So it's a sort of a delicate balance. Again, I mentioned this all in the context of this entity because I would guess it's almost certain that they will need help to try and make this project work.
Are they familiar with the Brownfield Tax Credit Program?
They are. We've been talking to them. We've been talking to some folks about that. The real question is what you have to do, how long is it going to take, and what kind of support you can get to do it. So, yeah, and again, this is another one where Foothills is doing a great job. As you probably know, they built that building over on Main Street. Looks great. That was the first sort of large multi-family building they've constructed. They were historically home builders. So they're trying to make their way through. I want to support their ambition. I think they do great work, but it's a challenge trying to get some of these things moving. So I'm just letting you know ahead of time about that.
Can I just, related to that, recommend that if it's ever going to come before the board, that in advance of, if you have the phase 2 report, why don't you send it to the members and just say, this is potentially a project that could come before us, and I want you to be aware of what the environmental issues are, and then we would know what they are.
Yeah.
So, or even the executive summary of the phase 2, I think would be fine.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
And then lastly, I just want to mention sort of anecdotally, I've had 4 I would consider to be legitimate people approach me or organizations approach me about 4656 South Street across the street. That's a very tough building to make it work for any number of reasons that aren't worth going into at this point. But I'm guessing that hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months we'll have someone will be able to make something work. I think there's a lot of negotiations, many of which are outside the scope of our organization. But I would think that some sort of IDA support will be solicited anyway. I've tried to be well clear to people as that's a challenging building.
I've heard structurally that there's a lot of issues there.
There's a lot of issues.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people, and to be totally honest, with a lot of this being generated, almost everybody who comes to me says, we see what's going on down on South Street, and we really want to participate in this. And they look at that building, and it's a big building, right? There's a lot of opportunity there, and I think there's a lot of leverage opportunity because as you look at them increasing the value of each other, right? As you go across the street, each one of them is looking at the other and saying, how I'm going to leverage the value of my building based on that one, and vice versa.
Sure.
So it's a good opportunity.
Has the building department been in there? And
Yes.
They have, and they're trying to address. They're trying to address some of the issues that the building currently has. I think it's been stabilized, but I think there's some issues. There are issues.
We don't just think, we know.
do you think it'd have to be demolished?
Well, that would be another thing, because it's kind of historic.
There
But if it can't be saved, it can't be saved. That means there are.
It's interesting
ways
because I've had
such
some
as-
people tell me it could absolutely be saved, and I've had some people tell me it should absolutely be torn down. you know, in many ways, it sort of points to the challenges that you have. You know, I know, and I don't want to go too far afield here, but I know that there's been some discussions at various levels of the city at large about, you know, tearing down buildings and, you know, rebuilding buildings and building new apartment buildings. And, you know, one of the challenges is, if you're going to restore these buildings, it takes a lot of time and a lot of money.
A lot of
It is
money.
very expensive, as we're finding out, as we're learning the hard way on South Street, right? It's wonderful if you can do it, but it's really expensive and it's really time consuming. And it takes a lot of effort from a lot of people. And I don't know if anybody who just comes in and says, I don't care what it costs, I'm gonna restore this building and make it back to its, you know, former glory. So, you know, those are the challenges that we've been working through, and I think they're worth working through, by the way. But I think these are, you know, you have these sort of bookend situations, you know, the work that we've been doing for now 7 years or more on South Street, and, you know, the challenges you have, let's say, over on Glen Street, and how you approach these differently.
Okay. Any other business?
Not from my hand. LDC.
Oh, for IDA?
Bookstore.
No.
No,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Mike's here for the LDC.
Oh,
Right.
sorry. Okay. Any other questions for Jeff on any of the projects? So we have no actions that we need to take right now. Any other business, Jeff? There being none, there's no need for an executive session. We'll meet again unless there's a need for an emergency meeting on October 10th at 8 a.m. Probably same location. We hope. We don't get to hear about it.
Motion
All right.
to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I will second
All
that.
in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
And now we have an updated LDC agenda in the second email, people. Right.
I wonder if it makes sense to do urban renewal first,
You wanna
since
do
we've
urban
got it,
renewal?
just, really, that's just
Okay.
approving bill payments.
There we go. So, good morning and welcome to I'd like to open the Glens Falls Urban Renewal Agency. It is still September 12th. We have a quorum of members. The first thing on our agenda is to review Schedule A, the bills. Mark?
You want to do
Sorry,
minutes?
regular
I
meeting.
apologize. Wow, I just jumped over a whole bunch of stuff, didn't I? It's nice.
It was the boring stuff.
That's very good. So the first would be the administrative report. No. where-
Yep,
Minutes.
administrative reports.
Why
Yep,
am I-
review the minutes.
Review the minutes of the regular meeting on May 9th, 2024. The board has the minutes. Are there any questions or suggested edits? Hearing-
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
And I will second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
I'll
opposed?
abstain, I was not here.
Thank you. Any opposed?
Well, shame on you.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Financial report, 8 months ending August 31st. Mark,
The
sorry.
only July, August activity, we had a Fitzgerald bill for $496, CT mail for $1,280.
Urban renewal?
This is urban renewal.
Urban renewal, not LDC.
Sorry?
This is
Urban
urban renewal.
renewal.
Urban renewal?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Sorry, we took things out of
Threw
order.
me off too, Mark.
I was
It's
just gonna
okay.
say, what's Karen charging us for?
Yeah, urban, all we have is, the only activity we had all year was back in April and May, so nothing in July and August. And we've got a couple old bills, 3 Fitzgeralds, 256, 48, and 48 again, and then Lux audit bill.
Here's our audit bill.
Totaling $2,752.
So that I
That's
believe
the
is
end
the
of the-
final.
That's the final for our audit? Okay. Very good,
I
thank you.
knew I saw it somewhere. Right.
All right.
Any questions?
No. I'll make a motion to approve Schedule A as presented.
Good.
Pay the
I can
bills.
go with that. What the heck?
You
You just-
second that?
But how about also approving the financial report?
Oh, we'll approve the financial report first. So I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for 8 months ending August 31, 2024.
And
Thank you.
I will second that.
All
And
in
Denise will abstain.
Denise will abstain.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Now let's go to the payment of bills in Schedule
So-
A, which we've heard from Mark.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of bills listed under Schedule A for a total of $2,752.00.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Thank you. Motion carried. I don't believe we have any other business. I don't believe we need to go into executive session. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There we go. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We stand adjourned until October 10th, 2024.
If
If
needed.
needed.
If needed.
I'd now like to open up the Greater Glens Falls Local Development Corporation. It is still Thursday, September 12th. It is our monthly meeting. We have a quorum in the House. We begin, I believe, with administrative reports, approvals, and resolutions. The minutes to the regular meeting held on July 11th, 2024. Are there any questions or corrections or changes to the meeting minutes from the previous meeting? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We have a financial report for the 7 months ending July 31st. Now, Mark, let's go with that one.
Whitmore bill for the 1099s they did, the 307. Memphis Sterling bill for 496. CEO wage for the second quarter, 1562. CT mail, one bill for 1280. Downtown Tavern, 12,500. Insurance bill for HIP for 1,282. And then the Glens Falls Drive expense, we have the income in June, the expense hit in July. And that is it.
Any questions from Mark? Comments about the financial report? Not hearing any. Do we have a motion to approve?
Is that July and August or just July?
Yes.
And it's July and
Oh,
August, so we
July
can do them
and
both.
August.
I'll
Nice.
move that we approve the financial reports for July 31 and August 31, 2024, as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Let's see, payment of bills. Back to you, Mark. Schedule A.
Two Fitzgerald's, 352 and 416. My hours, July and August, 60%, $441. Two First Insurance, our monthly liability charges for August and September, 1282, 1546. And then we've got under DRI, two flatly reads for $500 each, and CT mail for $2,560.
So those
The-
two flatly reads
Yeah.
are the final two bills under the DRI.
Do we pass those bills on to Wood Theater and Park Theater to cover that expense?
It comes out of the grant.
Right, it
So
was.
this is
the-
grant
it's
funded. These
the
are grant
fa-
funded.
They're
These
the
are the last
facade,
pieces
was
we're
it
gonna
the
draw down.
facade?
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Wood Theater was the HVAC.
Right.
And the Park Theater was the internet and sound equipment inside.
And those are both that same grant, the facade nonprofit.
Right,
Pickup drive.
right.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So what
And
we're
that
doing is.
finishes the grant, right?
Right, we're gonna pay
Ba-boom.
those bills and then go back to the state and say we need reimbursement for these.
Okay.
So the LDC will be reimbursed for that $1,000.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So what we've got next up is a draft budget for the.
No, we're gonna approve the payment of the bills. I think Carol would like
We
us
have
to
a
do
motion
that.
for approve to pay the bills.
I'll make a motion that we approve the payment of bills for both the operating and general operating of the LDC and the DRI for a total of $3,560.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And now we'll go to the draft LDC budget update for 2025 to 2029. Pat, you want to discuss?
Actually, I think we wanted to take that, table that until we get to the end of the meeting to discuss, where we're discussing the entirety of the project, right? I thought that's what we decided.
Well, no, really, we want to, you want to look at that budget. You're not approving it, but you want to see that those are the numbers that you'll find in the contract that we are about to discuss. And so just so you know that it's there, the goal would be for you to have any questions and come back, comments or whatever, and we'll finalize that, I believe, in our
month.
October meeting. All right, so those numbers, though, of
Are out
what the
there.
suggested changes are, will be there. We approve them in October so that they can be in the report, and the, is it Paris report in November?
By
So
November 1st.
that was sent yesterday as an email.
Do you have a copy of that?
I have a printed copy. Do you have a copy, or I can
Yeah.
use?
We'll
Okay.
give
We're
you-
not approving, we're just,
No,
we're
we're not.
acknowledging that it was distributed to us, that's all.
That's
Right.
correct.
Last minute.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I
we-
apologized in the email. I'll apologize again in the meeting that we didn't get it until yesterday. Didn't get it finished until yesterday.
See, those were the 5 o'clock emails yesterday with a copy of the proposed lease, the copy of the
is it
proposed,
5?
yeah.
I saw the
That's
lease.
why, right, exactly,
I saw the
exactly.
lease thing, but I didn't see the.
But you've got a month to review it before we actually take
Correct.
action on
Okay.
it. So it isn't, it was late for this meeting, but it isn't late for actual.
Right,
That's great.
because we have
a month.
until-
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
so-
and technically we have until
November
October
1st.
30th.
Right, but
It's
who
gotta be
wants,
a-
who wants
I
to
don't,
take
I
it?
don't, but
Well, that's
yes.
why, and that's why, even though it came late yesterday, it's early and give you a chance to look at it and discuss.
It's timely. I wouldn't go early, but I'd say timely.
So just so that you understand that when you take a look at it, right, that it includes the income from the sale of 36 Elm 45 South. It includes the income from the sale of the Tech Meadows property. And it includes the operating costs as best we knew, as of yesterday.
Right.
So,
Yeah, which is great. It's all a good update to have.
yes, my degree was in English, not
So I
math,
have to.
so
It's a good degree to have. Very useful.
I think so.
I think so too.
As was my psychology degree, I'll mention.
Right.
Getting
But you will
much-
notice none of us veered into the math area,
Yeah.
and that,
Yeah,
and,
that's-
and that is what the budget is, so, here you go.
I love math.
Here it's coming.
Do you really? Oh my goodness.
Well, thank God you're here. Okay, that's all I have to say.
So, as Pat just said, this includes this draft budget for you to, that we'll be looking at and approving next month.
Next month, yeah.
Includes the intended sale of the 2 properties on South and Elm and the Crew Coffee parcel in our industrial park, and then the proposed budget of the lease agreement for Market Square that we'll review later today in executive session, or later this morning in executive session. And we won't be approving and taking any action on any of those, but we wanted you to have them ahead of time, and we'll get you a non-handwritten version very soon as well. Fair enough?
We did
No,
that.
the handwriting's very clear.
did what I could.
We
That's the
wanted,
current
we
version.
wanted you to be aware of this because, aware and have any chance to talk to us about it, because the Common Council later this month will reviewing that lease and that lease agreement as the master lease lessors of that, and the LDC being the subletters of that. So wanted you to have it, and not after the fact, but before it, so that you could talk to us about it today. Okay? Great. Let's see, I don't believe we have any other reports regarding that. We have, next up is our project reports. Number 1 is just one more chapter. Pat?
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand it to Jeff, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm gonna try and use your voice. So, just one more chapter is a bookstore looking to open down on 14, I think it's 14 Ridge Street. You may have remembered it as, I think it was the Whisper Boutique, right next to the jewelry store
Oh,
down
right,
on Ridge.
okay.
And it was bought by a couple, the couple who own Zhou Chinese restaurant. Bought that, the upstairs floors have been apartments in the village have been occupied for a while. The past tenant ended her lease, and so Lexville, who's here, and I want him to talk to you just a little bit. Get a chair, we could bring one over to you, you can sit down, you know, be so informal or distant. But Mike is looking to open up a bookstore, concept bookstore. I guess I'll let you talk a little bit more about it. He and his wife are looking to open up a store down there, a retail store, and I wanted him to talk a little bit more about this project so we could understand it. One of the reasons is, of course, that Just One More Chapter is looking for potential support for the small business support grant we have. So I wanted to take a look at what he's looking to do, and we can discuss then if there's ways that we can help.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mike. So nice to meet you. I'm Newer, sorry.
You're good. No, you're fine.
Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I know it's short notice. I know I should have probably came to you guys a little sooner. Anyway, so yes, we are trying to open up a romance bookstore, no erotica, just strictly, you know, your old books, just newer, you know, nice colored edges, nothing crazy. We would like to have a place that book lovers come, they can read, they can find what they've been looking for, a place to sit down. I understand that we're not gonna carry everything that everybody wants. We do hope that if this is successful, that we could open up a full bookstore in downtown Glens Falls that carries everything that everybody would want. But for right now, there's been a massive trend for romance bookstores. There are only like 40 or 50 in the entire United States. The closest ones are in New York City and I think in Maine. So we would love to bridge that gap in between. We've done a lot of research on it. We've talked to a lot of people in these categories, and the amount of support that we've received is astronomical. We've had thousands of people willing to drive from hours away to come and visit this place. We have authors who've been reaching out, trying to do signings. We would love to do collaborations in Glens Falls, as well as we've already done a few at Adirondack Winery. Massively successful. For just being at a book event for a few hours, it's been incredible. So that's our drive to continue moving forward. We are doing a lot of the work ourselves. So I own a granite shop in South Glens Falls, so we do granite countertops. So we're using part of our money to revamp the store. It's been a lot. We've had to do a lot of work, but it's absolutely beautiful with the visions that we've had. We've worked with a few designers. I have a lot of plans, but I didn't bring everything, and I do apologize. I would love to show you all, but I do have all the paperwork to show you. We do have some plans. If you guys don't mind if I stand up and show you.
No, very great.
So this is just part of the options that we're looking at. You know, so we've got about 16 feet of bookcases that I've already built. We just got finishing stuff up, but we want to do some more bookcases in the wraparound. A nice, beautiful reading nook. We thought about doing some coffee and stuff, but we also fear that people won't treat the books, you know, with respect, and we wouldn't want them to be destroyed because they're not just a normal book. They're beautiful books, and a lot of them are signed. So this is kind of the design that we're going for. We've done a lot of research on, you know, we should do this, we should not do this. But for right now, I'll show you guys into the side. So,
It's a huge, it's a store. It's a store, right.
You're
Right.
selling the books as well,
so we
right?
have books that we'll be selling, bags, bookmarks, anything and all book related. We also have events that we would want to bring into.
Yeah.
So like a read and sit where people just at Adirondack Winery would come in because we don't have the liquor license, but they could come. We would figure it out. We would obviously do it the right way. But these are things that the community has reached out to us when we made a post, just asking if, before we did anything, we did ask, in our community help on Facebook. Thousands of people have said, please open a bookstore. So we said, okay, let's try it. So we found the space, and everything just kind of fell into it. The owners are super supportive of us doing the bookstore.
That's great.
So we're just trying to do it.
This is you and your wife, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because I know that when we first met, you did give us a business plan.
Yeah, we have the business plans. I did all the copies and everything else. I just trying to get all the kids to school this morning was hard. So I apologize.
It's not your responsibility. We have it. It's not your responsibility.
So I wanted to be more prepared. But yeah, so we've been doing that for the last 2 months. And I just wanted to ask if you guys would be willing to.
So let me ask you this: what kind of support do you really need in order to make this, so you could get yourself started on the right foot? Is there in particular needs that you have that this is going to be tough to sort of a tough nut to crack to get open? I know you do some of this work yourself, but I mean, how much inventory do you need, for instance?
So we've bought a little over $10,000 worth of books already. I personally have spent at least $10,000 to $20,000 in materials, flooring, wood, everything. I put a lot of money into this place in just hoping that this is going to work. And I know I should have, I'm a little backwards, I should have asked for help and all this stuff in the beginning, but whatever, I was gung-ho and wanted to do something for my life. And I wanted to do something for the community. So I don't really know. I just wanted to know if there's any options.
Well, that's what I think. As we talked a little bit about this, right? We have this small business support grant, essentially to try and fill holes that small businesses like yourselves say, well, I can't get there. I mean, we don't. You don't want to open up a small business with $0. At the same time, this is not going to make your business or not. But what it is especially when you're starting up from scratch, and you say, I don't have anything here in an empty space, especially when in this case you had to sort of undo some of the space just to do it. So recognizing all that and sort of the limitations, and I'm not putting you on the spot now,
No,
we're talking about it, but the kinds of things, I don't know.
The furniture.
Right,
You
the
know,
furniture,
Yeah,
right,
these
you-
are the things that we are, like I said, the lighting, the furniture.
There you go.
Some more inventory, nothing crazy. I've already I've put a mini split in, so I've taken care of that. I've taken care of the flooring. I've taken care of the bookshelves, the bathroom, the vanity. I've taken care of a lot of stuff, and I do the stonework, so I'm putting in a bunch of stone. Whole nice countertops, reading nooks. Stone shelves. I can cover that part, but there are just some things that I've run out of my own funds,
Right.
and
That's what we're here for.
and I just don't know how to ask for help. I've never really asked for help, so it's true.
Nothing like starting a new business to learn that.
With my granite shop, I didn't get help. I couldn't get a loan. I couldn't. So for the last 3-4 years, I've been doing it out of just sweat, and it's worked, and it's been very successful. And so my wife sold her blogging business to help me build my shop. So now I'm trying to use my shop to help her build this.
Nice.
And I'm just at the spot where I think we do need
So it probably makes sense then for us to get together and talk about what you think you might need and put together an application for all intents and purposes. We have an application that would be part of this process. Then once
what we need is the specifics of what you need at this point.
we have an application already.
Yeah.
I
The basic.
They'll help you crunch some numbers.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
And his inventory, Jeff, what's the list of things that are currently listed in that
I'd have to go
grant?
back. A lot of it was what you're talking about. The
Furniture, fixtures,
grant,
equipment.
this
Right.
grant really focuses on furniture, fixtures,
Right.
and equipment.
So what I tried to do is I tried to take care of the things that maybe you guys couldn't cover. You know, I had to put a new subfloor down. I had to do some things in order to get this place into a spot where it would look, where people would want to come in. You know, there's things on the outside like the awning. I'm sure you guys have seen the red and white awning that's torn. I would love
Yeah,
to
see
take
that, right,
down
right.
and
There you go.
make it black and white to match the others. But I need to do, I need to have special permits, and I don't have awning money, and you know,
Right.
so
And
there's things that I would love to do
Right.
to make it beautiful again and attract the people.
Well, and
So-
I get, and what we sort of need to do is we need to figure out those things that we can help you with, so you can focus your funds on the things that we can't.
I
Right,
appreciate that.
and that's what I think,
Yep.
that's where the
Yes.
delta is, the sort of the
Sure.
gap. And, you know, as everybody here knows, and this has been an interesting topic of conversation among the city folk lately, is that, you know, because you're in the CCD, the Central Commercial District, there's requirements, there's aesthetic requirements you have to adhere to that are above and beyond if you're out in the hinterlands. Not to say we don't care what's in the hinterlands, but, you know, we're really concerned about how the downtown aesthetic maintains the integrity of the community and your neighbors next door. And so, we realize that some of those things cost extra money, right? The permitting costs extra, you have to go before the planning board, you have to have architectural review, if you want to change awnings or change signs. We can't necessarily help you with those costs, but by helping you with other things, you can then devote the resources to those things.
I
that
understand.
can happen. So, you know, we're not, unfortunately, we don't just have, you know, come in and say what you want, so here it is. You know.
I think Jim would
But-
like to speak.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Jeff, I just wanted to say, by the way, they did contact us and we referred them to you first because that's what made sense.
Sure.
But the full totality of support is not limited to what you guys could do. I think that the goal here would be for you to figure out what's appropriate in terms of your downtown specific targeted funds. But working capital for things like inventory and soft costs like people or the expenses of starting a business are oftentimes something that's a basis of an LDC loan. If you were unable to process that here at the Glens Falls level, we would be happy to entertain it at the Warren County level. And so we're simply waiting to figure out how to step in to help fill the gaps.
Just a supplement. Yeah.
We did try for an SBA loan, we did try, unfortunately, we did get denied, you know, we tried through our banks, we did get denied, so we kind of said, we're just gonna do it, with what we had.
When are you hoping to open?
Well, we pushed off our opening, it was supposed to be September 21st, but there was no way I physically could get all the work done myself by that time. We pushed it off until October 12th. If I can get approved by everything, get approved by the board, get the CO, I still have a bunch of work, but we would love to do it before the Boo to You and before Halloween, as we just got a bunch of spooky romantic books. And it's my wife, she picks out she hand picks out every single one.
Oh, that's awesome.
And,
It's huge.
So it's,
Right now, it's weird.
we would love to do it as soon as possible because we have, like I said, we have thousands of people waiting. It's, so,
That's great. All right, so,
Okay.
get
Yeah.
together.
Anybody else have any questions about anything? Well, thank you, Michael. You did a great job, by the way. And
Yes,
you're doing,
you did.
you know, I wanted everybody to see, because it's a different idea. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of times I can explain sufficiently what folks are looking to do when they come in and talk. And sometimes it's better when the owner does. And so, you know, I just wanted to make sure. This is something you know, the novelty of bookstores, you know, as a PhD, I love to read. I say loved in past tense because I don't get the time to read nearly as much as I used to. So I'm glad there's a bookstore potentially going back. But anyway. Anyway, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you so
much.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe I met your daughter hitting up bookmarks at Spot Coffee,
It
and
was-
she was lovely. I mean, she was very sweet.
thank you
So-
so much. Yes, I very
Oh,
much
nice.
appreciate that.
We've got a marketer out there for you.
Great job. Welcome to Glens Falls.
Yeah.
Huh?
Thank you for
Everybody, I
coming
wanna
to
thank
Glens
you all for
Falls.
your time today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you guys very soon.
We look forward to seeing you as well.
Good luck. Thanks.
Next up is a handout of most recent, the 36 Inc. Business Development Plan. We wanted to make sure that we send you, do we have copies of
Do
it?
you want to talk about
Do the
yeah.
DRI budget for.
Oh, sorry, yes, I apologize, I missed that too.
Where was that?
So,
It's at the bottom of page 1.
gotcha.
Oh, it's on.
Either one. So what we want to do is give you some updates. The last time we really had a full talk about Market Square, Market Center, the opportunities going on there was during our workshop that we had at Davidson Brothers, or at the bullpen. Oh, I better slow down. I could get hurt. So we wanted to show you this document's been shared with the Common Council. We actually have it.
You got one more?
Oh, I didn't make enough copies.
It's I don't need one, so we'll get Mary for sure. And now,
You want mine? How long time would you want for your minutes?
so this document has been shared with the council. It's also been shared most recently with the Department of State and ESD to brag about the city and where we are with this DRI. And it is fantastic. Jeff, I'll let you give some highlights.
Yeah, what happened was, the council has been asking for some time, logically, for an update on where we stand with the DRI from a financial perspective. And as part of that process, obviously some of these things are still waiting to be done. But I think we have fairly good visibility from a city perspective on where this is all going to shake out. The only real variable had been, any cost overruns that we might have run into with the Market Center. So once I got done with that, I went back to the original budget that was constructed when this was passed. The budget for the DRI was passed back in, I think, in March of 2018, and sort of reconcile that with the projects that were actually done. So if you go through here, you'll see many of these look familiar to you. The SUNY Culinary School relocation, the GS Drive nonprofit facade, which the LDC has been intimately involved with from the very beginning, at least since I've been here. The Market Center there, along with Bonaccio's Phase 1, which of course we're very, very involved in. Phase 2, which is being driven by this entire process. So even though Phase 2 is not getting DRI funds directly, obviously, as we've discovered over the last year or so, it's intimately tied with the DRI. So I included that as far as the investment that's coming from different areas. The pocket park I referred to earlier, and the streetscaping, both parts of the DOS grant as part of the DRI, the Arch Trail, which we know was completed, building acquisitions that were combined with the Restore New York grant that the city, that Ed got, I think, in 2017. That included the acquisition of the Juice and Jar and OTB, and ultimately the Daily Double, along with the money to tear down those and stabilize the two LDC buildings. And then the last one there, Market Square fit out is really the wild card, in the sense that this is a grant we've applied for from ESD that seems to fit perfectly the capital expense that we're going to need to sort of fit out both the Market Center, the movable stage we're going to look at, along with things like the commercial kitchen and things that I'll give you another thing here in just a minute. So what you basically see here is a combination of the state and federal grants and tax credits, as near as I've been able to tell them. The private investment that's come, whether it's from small businesses like Mike's Business Bookstore, who, when they get these grants, they're matched to the grant that they're contributing to. People like the Arts District and the nonprofits that have contributed to their projects. SUNY Adirondack, of course, put $800,000 into that $1.9 million project that was funded by both the DRI and another grant. And then, of course, the last line there is the city's various investments in some of these different projects. And what you can see there, I think, is, and I highlighted a couple things. One, of course, that total investment. Ultimately, we're looking at about $55 million of investment once these projects on South Street are completed. I would say, hopefully by the end of next year, depending on how long it takes. Judy would probably know better than I how long that building, if they get started at the end of this year. Of which the cities, and that's really maybe a little bit lower than that depending on how things shake out, but we're looking at about a $3.5 million city investment on a $55 million total investment downtown. So, and I highlighted those other two just because those are the two that are awaiting development. So these two projects, right, Phase 1 and Phase 2, are together about $40 million of that. And so, obviously these things are all backloaded. You go in all these little smaller projects that are a little bit easier to do. And when you finally get to the meat of the matter, we're looking at this really transformative two projects really, but one collective project down on South Street.
Yep.
I think it's great that you did this. I would keep it updated. And in a couple things, I think the Phase 2 project's going to be more than 24.9 million, but is that based on their most recent budget?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And I would encourage you to break the state and federal into two different columns, and so that you can see what the
You mean
actual.
like grants versus tax credits and things?
And yes, but also tax credits are not really, it's really private investment, and so
Oh, yeah. see what
I
you're
would, and so I would keep that in private, but it'd be interesting to see what the federal government put in, what the state put
Sure.
in. But the other big benefit here is that a bunch of these properties were not even on the tax roll, that they were in foreclosure, if you were, and the city wasn't earning any. And so I don't know that we can go forward and figure out what the potential tax benefit is to the city.
Yeah, that's a good
But
point.
to take all of these properties that were not generating any tax, both for the city, the county, and the school district, and all of a sudden have them back on the tax roll, is huge. And
Well-
probably not reflected here, but
Right. No, it's
I
not.
also
So
do not.
you don't mean just because the LDC or the city owned them, you mean that people weren't paying their
Yes.
taxes? It's not that they
No.
weren't generating tax, it was that we weren't getting paid.
It wasn't getting paid.
Right,
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 yes.
right, that, I mean,
In the
And
case
so-
of some properties, the city owned them, they were not, there was no tax being charged. In other
Because-
cases, no one was paying the taxes.
that's
Right.
correct, that's absolutely
So
correct, right.
I love that you did this, and I know I'm making it more complicated, but this is the type of thing that I think people in the city and
When there's a ribbon
media-
cutting, to be able to have the
And-
placard, you know, yeah, I think that's,
It's huge.
I agree
Well,
with you.
and I think that, yeah, that's sort of a great segue too, because, you know, as we're getting very, very close to this, you know, work starting on this last piece, right? I think, you know, and as the mayor mentioned, we sent this to ESD, to Mike Eberly and Joe Landy, and the first thing it says, we'll be in touch. Like, this, we'll be in touch, because we want to talk about this. I mean, this is something that they want to promote as well. I mean, we're basically not only looking at having spent essentially every single dime of the DRI, which many communities couldn't say, even those that managed to use some of it, ended up not being able to spend it. But we've leveraged it by a factor of 5. Yeah, Jim?
At the REDC meeting this week, they spent a fair amount of time talking about the leverage that had been obtained here and the fact that they were going to provide the entire council with greater details, and they were working with you to do that. So that process has already begun.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're having so first of all, thank you for that suggestion.
Yeah, we'll
This
do that.
document started, when you look at the list on the left, this was, some of the little bit of the language has changed, but this was the original budget that was approved by the Common Council back in 2017-18.
Yep.
And so we started with that, and there's another tab to this that Jeff didn't provide you right now, but I'd like you to invite you all to come a Wednesday night, the 16th at 6 p.m. outside the mayor's office in the
18th, sorry.
18th.
Next
I
Wednesday.
apologize, next Wednesday. It's the 18th at 6 p.m. in just outside my office in the lobby. It's a DRI council budget workshop because their concerns, I don't know if you've read in the paper that, you know, the headline was Bridging the Gap. So what happened is about a month ago, we shared the original budget document and reminded the council where we were at $11.3 million back in 2018. And that we needed to change that budget document to about 14.7. Please don't hold me to these exact numbers, but it's 14.6, 14.7 million dollars. And the council was certainly supportive of it, but then went, well, how much does this actually mean in, how much do we have to bond? What's this actually mean for the city? And so we said, that's a great point. We'll get back to you. And that's what this workshop is going to clarify. But until between that time and next Wednesday, some people voiced their concerns and it became a Post-Star article, right? And the Post-Star article did exactly, in my opinion, what we don't want, which was all about the fear of the budget gap and not about the investment.
Positive,
So
right.
we basically started with this, look, there's going to be a budget change and we need you to approve it. And then the question, and it's a good one, how much is that the bond, at this point, we think the bond's gonna be, when this is all said and done and all the ban is done and because we had to put out a ban many years ago for $8.2 million, the city did, because we all know this DRI, they don't pay you until you're done with the work. And some of it, they don't pay you until you're all done and some of the individual projects, right? And so when the ban ends, maybe next year, we're hoping, you just said you think 18 months is phase 2 might take them, right? So, but when this is all
Maybe
done,
24,
yeah,
24.
maybe, so
It's in
when this
their-
is
it's in
all
their
done,
application to
the
each
city
year.
will be
Schedule.
responsible for what we believe to be about a $3.6 million gap out of a $54 million investment in downtown. I think it's a great coup for the previous mayors that supported this and the previous councils that supported this. I think it's, and the state, and showing their investment. So you will, we can also send, so Judy, I really like, yours could be like, so there's already 2 tabs. The first tab is these projects with the original budget. The second tab is the new budget that will be the $14.7 million. The third tab is what you have in front of us, and I think the fourth tab should include all the tax benefits that you just mentioned, which doesn't.
And I'm going to add 2 more things
Sure.
that should be on here. You've preserved what I think are 3 historic properties. 1 was a brownfield. And you're bringing, and put a total number of housing units, you're bringing, I don't know,
100,
almost 100
almost 100
apartments into downtown, and 100 more people at least, and maybe 200 if they're
Right.
2 bedrooms, are going to be living in our downtown area. Those apartments will rent quickly,
Yeah.
probably more than the
Well,
commercial
it's-
space. And to have those additional bodies downtown, the restaurants alone
Sure.
are going to hugely benefit from that. And so talk about the people, the apartments, and that kind of activity, and add that to your
Yeah, this is
project
actually,
benefits.
this is a framework of I think, a presentation to talk about all the different pieces. Absolutely, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
I
right.
agree.
100%.
Yep, it's awesome.
I agree. It's funny you did the segue there, because the other thing I just had this the other day, and I wanted you to see this. I don't know if you already have. I'm sort of ambivalent in some ways about it, but this is a National Association of Realtors document that came out recently. And when we're talking about the need for housing, and you heard me talking earlier about all these different housing projects, right? There are basically 5 housing projects going on at the same time, right? This one that we're talking about right now is the closest to fruition. Having been involved in all of them, I can tell you. But if you want to know what's driving this, a lot of it is what this map you're looking at. This is for the National Association of Realtors, who looked at existing home price increase in the last 12 months. And you'll see the city of Glens Falls is second by a 1/100%, by the way. I went and checked, as opposed to whatever that other
Racine, Wisconsin.
I don't want to go too far down this road, but one of the things that seems to be clear to me as we're moving forward is that Glens Falls, and this is the metro area, not just the city, but is in many ways perfectly located, right, for what I think is going to end up being the future dynamic, which is, people are loosely tied to communities that may have where they work, but not tethered too closely. And so, if you have a hybrid job, all of a sudden going down to Albany once or twice a week, or New York City or Boston once or twice a month, is no longer a barrier to living in Warren or Washington counties in this case. So, I think this kind of thing, but it tells you about the pressure that we are seeing in housing, and we're limited, right? We're trying to work as the mayor's, we're working closely with Queensbury as the LDC is, right? One of the things we're looking at Tech Meadows. I don't know that we need any housing in Tech Meadows, but we're looking at the options that are available to us, because Glens Falls is space constrained. Everything we do has to be rebuilt, built in infill. The challenges that I alluded to a little bit ago about how difficult it is, and I think it's crucial that we maintain the historic integrity of these buildings, but it's an enormous challenge. Thank God for bodies like this and the IDA and the EDC, and a city that is supportive of these things, as we are. We don't want to go into the weeds and what's going on in the controversies on this project or that project right now. But the fact of the matter is that it's critical right? That we sort of pursue these kinds of things. And, you know, when you have certain buildings that say they need to stay, but in some cases, you know, you were just talking about the across the street in South Street, right? In other cases, like the incubator, there wasn't really much, the building basically had to stay. You know, the state was like, you can't tear this down, you're gonna cause more problems than, you know, environmental problems that you're solving. So it gets you to this challenge of trying to make these projects work.
So, please, thank you. Look, we could, for expediency.
Thank you.
I just wanted you to be as excited as we are. The last thing we're gonna do is pass around, an update of the document that I shared with you several months ago when we were at the bullpen. The subcommittees are meeting now. Remember, we talked about creating 3 subcommittees for the 3 legs of our Market Square project. I'm sorry that it's not in color and nicer, and it will be.
I can send that to you, sorry.
No, you're good. No, please, I just, I want you to look at it. I hope that you're involved in any of those subcommittees, and if not, it should be. We'll let you know. We postponed meeting with them because the city council this month is in the middle of budgets. So we're a little swamped right now, but there are 3 separate subcommittees that are talking about this. You'll note in the budget document that you have, there is from the city $1 million of that to fit out these, to fit out Market Square and Market Center, because we know that although the LDC is going to take over the lease of this Market Square and pay that rent and try to generate money and get this, the goal is to get this up and running, and then find a group like the one I've been using, and they have no way told me they would do this, but the Civic Center Coalition, right, I think is a fantastic group of public-private partnership that took over an investment. The goal is that within 3, 4, 5 years that we have a group like that running this center. So we have a 5-year budget that you now are looking at that includes the paying of the overhead of to rent this facility out. It's not counting to fit out the facility. That is in the Common Council's portion of the budget. I wanted you to be aware of it. We can talk. We're going to look at the master lease in just a few minutes under executive session, and the sublease that is our obligation. We are doing it. These committees have been meeting, and they're exciting. I want to invite you all to come to Wednesday's public workshop meeting, because as these questions are, it's easy. There's so many moving parts of this $54 million project that Judy, you just said something that I agree completely. We started talking about just those people that are living downtown, and in a better way. There's so much great stuff happening, but we're not great at talking about it. We're not great, and we're trying. I've hired a communication director. We're doing more than has been done in a long time, but we're still not very good at showing people all we're doing. We have not sat down with all the restaurants in the area and said, this is 100 new apartments coming to Glens Falls. It's not just,
At least.
Yeah, at least. And that's a couple hundred people, at least. And they're all coming, and they'll be living right there, and it's going to be supporting our businesses. We have not talked at all, Judy, in all my conversations about the tax being generated. I think it's because it's the most hard to estimate sitting in our office, right? How do you figure that out, right? But the pilot agreement was approved by the council last Tuesday night, right? The pilot agreement for these for phase 2, right? And so we're making great progress. Please come and show your support. Go ahead.
Real quickly, just because I know he's here and he's been here from the get-go. With respect to this business plan, one of the things we're working on is trying to figure out the way. Obviously, the medium-term plan, I won't even say long-term, is to have this transition to some subletter of the subletter, which would be the LDC. We've been talking a lot with Jim Simplon and EDC about how they might help us in this process. Jim's been intimately involved in a lot of these committees. that are talking about the commercial kitchen and the operation of this facility as we're going forward. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Jim, but since you're here, if you could talk just for a couple minutes about, you know, what you guys are doing and how that might fit into what we're doing here.
I'll come over here so I can get up on the screen. This progress is a lot further along than maybe it appears, and I agree with you, Mayor, that we could do a better job of communicating that. We're working on that ourselves. But the LDC at Warren County recognized that they have more than $1 million that is not being used productively for the community. And over the last 2 years, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out how most productively to put that into play. We studied things like child care. We looked very much at potentially going into a regional land bank. But the two areas that we chose to focus on were a pre-development fund for housing development to help catalyze housing developers that are not currently perhaps focused on development in Warren County to step into what they see as potentially a more difficult environment to go through a planning environment. So this would essentially provide them with upfront cash that they wouldn't have to tie up in projects while it's in a long-standing planning process. Roughly $25,000 worth of funding to carry them through so they don't have any cash in proposing projects in Warren County. That's about to be launched. The second part of this is support of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and it has a number of components, including Startup 80K and developing coursework with SUNY and others, including Innovate 518, to support existing startup businesses. But perhaps the most exciting piece is this thing called a reverse marketplace, at which point at the LDC level, there were a number of ideas that were generated that said, we have a business that we think could be developed here, but nobody seems to want to do it. We don't see any business plans seeking funding to do it. And they were thinking of things that were sitting in front of the county, like septic capacity that was associated with a lot of the legislation that they had passed to increase the tempo of inspections around bodies of water in Warren County. And they quickly learned that septic capacity was one of the limiting factors there. But this year we're about to launch 5 projects that will essentially take a business plan with a commitment by the LDC to provide startup working capital to any qualified entity that eventually steps into operating or building that particular business. 3 of them are associated with things that are larger Warren County objectives, but 2 are associated with the city. One is finding a long-term manager or operator for your indoor farm, and the other is finding the right entity to take over at least what we're referring to as medium term, maybe several years, maybe as long as 5, to operate your market center. And I think this will be a combination of vetting commercial entities that already exist in the area and seeing what it would take to get them to step into this, or potentially looking at people or entities that are not even here and recruiting them to the task. So that will launch this fall, and one of the 5 projects is this market center, where we're taking the business plan that has already been developed. We'll probably do another iteration of it just to update it, and then we will hold a series of public information sessions and workshops to expose that idea to potential either vendors or operators. And if we're successful at finding one right away, that's what we'll put in play. If not, we will continue to do it in subsequent sessions. We're going to do this annually for a number of years. So I'm excited about the fact that this one was already pre-developed. The rest of them, we've had to actually build the business plans ourselves. So I think you're probably 80% there, and we're going to continue to do the work with you. I think there is a plan here, and we're working with you and your committee to implement it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
Thank you. With that, any questions about your handouts, please take a look at them. Let me know, call anytime if between now and our next business. We wanted, I think I've covered everything else that we were hoping to cover. Jeff or Pat, have I missed anything?
Yeah, the only thing that we just want to note is the fact that, and I forget where this information came from, Kara, I think it's from you, that Spring City Development has actually passed the project on to a new LLC that they're calling, what is it, Glens Falls Ventures 1, is that right?
Yeah.
So that then becomes the entity name for the project, yes?
Yes. It'll be that they've assigned the project to Glens Falls Ventures One. Title will be in Glens Falls Ventures One, all their lease agreements, pilot. It's solely owned by the same entities, the Sonny Bonaccio, so it's no change in underlying ownership, it's just a new entity that they've created.
And they're doing that because they have to do it, you guys, because they're bringing, on phase one, they're bringing historic tax credit investor into the deal. And so that
not
investor
straight,
has a part of the ownership of the project. And so
I
that's
see,
why they're
okay.
changing the LLC.
created a
They're
new
creating
entity
a
that
new
is both
LLC that's bringing
the other
this-
party in.
that party into the deal.
Got it.
That's what, it happened, it'll happen on the phase two project as well, all right? Just so you know. Very common.
One last point of note, before we want to go into executive session, not to pass any, we won't come out and pass any resolutions, so we'll go into executive session to review a contract, and then we won't approve anything, we'll come out and go home, so we can end that piece of it. But one last thing that I wanted to mention was that Bonaccio was asked to start work on this, even though we haven't closed on the property. I've given him, with hopefully your understanding and approval, that I've given him permission as long as he provides us insurance documents showing that he has insurance to cover any liability issues. He's wishing to start this, and we all have been wanting that done. If for some reason this project somehow fell through, we want the work done anyway, so he would just be doing work that we would want done anyway. So again, I'm not seeing any concern with that. I gave verbal approval as long as they provided us insurance. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, that's a big decision.
Could I make the suggestion that should they come back and need something in writing, that we take the action now to give the mayor permission to sign a short-term lease allowing them access to our property until
if
closing
needed.
or something, if needed, just so that we don't have to come back together just for something like that?
They are, just so you know, I spoke with Libby, their attorney. She advised that, they'll execute an indemnification and provide the insurance. They thought they'd have insurance certificates today and allow them to, commence site work at the property because they have some subs lined up.
Right, so I'm thinking they might want a document, that's all. So if they
Before we have a
do,
resolution for that, is there any questions or concerns? Okay. Isn't it fantastic? We're starting work on this property that Jane had called the green mess, or what was it?
the glow green.
The glow green, right? This is one of the most downtrodden pieces of property in the city of Glens Falls, and they're starting work on it. Huh?
But we're gonna talk about the master
We
lease
are,
in
Right,
yeah, we're gonna
but
talk
do we
about
want
it.
to take action on my
Could we have
my
a
motion
motion
to allow
if
the
Bonaccio asks for a short-term lease to get started
Motion
before
and a
the
second.
closing?
So motion and a second.
Well, you
Right.
guys, we could go into executive session now. Everyone.
The only
can
thing is
stay
that I
here.
wanted to end so we can
So
let
that-
Peter go
let-
and let
No,
everybody else
you
go and
can't.
not come back.
You have to come back.
We have to come out.
We could
come back.
decide who's coming out and we don't.
You have to come out and close your session and do
after
it anyway,
executive?
so we have
And
to,
Peter has to stay,
and he has to
unfortunately.
stay anyways.
Just to come out. You can't
We
just
can't
make a
close
motion
You're
to
not
come out?
supposed to. No,
Right.
without-
you're on video.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. That's all.
Yes.
I wasn't passing any resolution, all right? It's not like we're passing any.
I just think before you vote on that, I would do the executive session first.
Okay,
Interesting, okay.
all right. Then we need to go into executive session and review a contract.
Right.
Do we have a motion to go
Motion
into
for
executive session?
So the purpose of the review.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. welcome back to the Glens Falls LDC meeting.
And on behalf of the mayor, and the board, I just want to state for the record that we had an executive session to discuss a lease, and that no voter action was taken in that executive session, so we have no vote to report now.
That's correct.
All right.
And so now in pursuant to our conversation, Kara, do you have one resolution? Let's do the resolution to accept the resolution first. Let's do that.
Okay, so the resolution would be to execute a short-term lease or license agreement allowing Glens Falls Ventures 1 LLC access to the property to commence site work, which they've identified as demo and abatement work. That would commence as soon as next week, and authorizing the mayor to execute any document.
So moved.
And the addresses are?
36 45 South.
Yes.
And the only caveat to that is that they provide the insurance.
Right.
Before occupying providing any work on the site.
Yep.
All right, so with that, do we have a motion?
I moved.
Do we have
I'll second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. And the next is more of an acknowledgement, not necessarily a resolution.
Right, based on discussions, it's acknowledged that there will be a master lease agreement for the premises
With the city of Glens Falls.
with the city of Glens Falls, with the intention to sublease to the LDC, and conceptually you've approved, or you've consented to.
Undertake that sublease with the caveat that we have some modification of the language on the property taxes that was contained in the draft we saw. But short of that.
And
yeah.
I just want to acknowledge, as part of that we did receive a draft copy of the initial sublease that they sent to us, that there are edits and changes
That's
that
Kara drafted that.
would do.
I drafted the sublease.
Right, it's
and
the
I have to
master
make
lease that
those-
we,
yeah.
that we need some modification of.
Okay. So.
And besides the one modification of the tax thing that we're all
Conceptually,
in approval of that and ready to move
As
forward.
long as
with
we
yours.
have the opportunity to
city-
review the final product
That's
before
right.
our signature
Yeah.
goes on.
If the city,
That's right,
city.
yeah. Common council,
City
the
council.
master lease will be on the common council agenda of the 24th, I believe, of September. Again, I want to invite you all to the workshop on a week from yesterday, so it's this coming Wednesday at the City Hall, where we're going to talk about the financials, about the entire DRI, the document you've been shared and others that will help clarify for the council and the public about the overall impact of the project, and this master lease certainly being part of that. So thank you. So we don't need it, it's not a resolution, but I do appreciate that you're all now aware and conceptually in agreement with the changes. So thank you, and we can report back to the developer that we're ready to move forward. And thank you again, and I'll report that to the council too, that the LDC is on board with its portion of these commitments. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So
With that, I think we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you all very